Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Tuesday, May 28th City Council meeting. This is not our usual night. Everything is a little bit changed around. I know when I came to City Hall tonight, and I couldn't believe our licensing folks, there was no one there. And then City Manager Coleman reminded me that, well, they're not open on Tuesday evening, and that's right, because we're not here on Tuesday night. Of course, we were able to celebrate the Memorial Holiday. I hope that everyone out there had an opportunity to go to some type of Memorial Day event. It certainly is an important holiday. Having a son who served in the Marine Corps, I'm very familiar that the purpose of Memorial Day is to honor the it's a little bit over 1 million armed service members who gave their lives for our country. And so I certainly went to a Memorial Day service, and I hope everyone else got out there and recognized the service of our military for the ultimate sacrifice for our country. So with that, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk Sint, would you please do our roll call?
Knudsen?
Here.
Councilmember Juniman?
Here.
Councilmember Neblett?
Present.
Councilmember Smith?
Present.
Please.
Mayor Abrams?
I'm here. Thank you. Jeez. Council members, do I have a motion for the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Juniman. Approval of the agenda. Is there any other additions to the agenda? Any other? I see a couple of lights on. Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you. Under council presentations, the League of Women Voters Annual Meeting. From Mr. Love, perhaps some County Road BXL project updates. A couple of stats from our city cleanup, and Tuesdays on the trail.
Okay, 4 things. Councilmember Neblett.
I would like to add the 622 Educational Foundation Stars Banquet.
Okay, and I would like to add a wrap-up on the tree sale, and also the North End open house that's coming up this week, and also the Rush Line tour that I took today. Anything else, council members? Okay, then with that, right, motion on the agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, we're on to approval of the minutes. Let's start with the May 13th, 2019 City Council workshop minutes.
I move approval.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. Approval of the May 13th City Council workshop minutes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. On to the City Council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Neblett, seconded by Smith. Motion to approve the May 13th City Council meeting minutes. Is there any other further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, let's move on to appointments and presentations, administrative presentations. City Manager Coleman.
Thank you, Mayor Abrams, members of the City Council. The council calendar update is meant to be informational and to provide the council and folks watching of our upcoming schedule on our workshops and council meetings. On June 10th, we're going to have our first look at the 2025 Capital Improvement Plan and have an update on the North End study. And it does say on here that we're doing commissioner interviews, but that is not happening, so that'll be scratched. On June 24th, we're going to begin our department presentations, and this is really just to give all of the departments a chance to give the council an overview of the work that they're doing, who their employees are, and also to kind of give you a preview of what things will be looking at for next year in preparation for the 2020 budget. So those will begin with the administration department. We're also going to talk about pet licenses and get an update on our communications plan and also their department presentation. At the council meeting on June 24th, we are looking for approval of the Nature Center Master Plan. And just so you know, I have been working with the consultant and Otter Robbins to make sure the questions and issues that were raised by the council when that was presented to you about a month and a half ago, that those questions have been addressed. And so you will see that in your report before that meeting. July 8th, we'll continue with department presentations, and if necessary, we'll get back into the CIP and possibly do a overview of the 2020 budget. In terms of things that we're working on that have been brought up by the council over the past several months, Tobacco 21, Ms. Sint has reached out to Ramsey County, and it looks like a night that will work for them and for us is August 12th. And I just wanted to clarify with the council how you wanted to handle that, because we really had a pretty elaborate presentation from the T21 group. So I think I remember you saying you wanted to have the business community at a workshop and then have the, kind of a public meeting where people could kind of talk, both sides could bring their viewpoints at the council meeting. Is that correct, or
That's
do you
my
want to?
recollection. Council members, is that your recollection as well? I
Okay.
think so.
All right, so we'll schedule that accordingly. So Andrea, that's a little different than what we talked about, but that's what I remember when we talked about that. Mr. Smith, do you have a question on that?
Councilmember Smith, did you have something?
Thank you, Mayor. I just, when we say the business community, how are we defining that, and like, who do we call? I mean, there's not like
That
the
would be
business
all of our
person.
businesses that sell tobacco.
Okay, but would we work with like the convenience store association, or is it just calling
They
individual
typically
businesses?
find them. I mean, once we send out a letter to the folks that have a tobacco license.
Gotcha.
They
Forgot about the
they
license
draw
part.
in all of their
there's
lobbyists
the
and their
license
things.
part, yeah, okay.
So they will be here. But that's a very good question.
Thank you.
The next item was the Minnetonka, or our tree program, and it was a very successful event, but I won't steal Mayor Abrams' thunder there. I'll let her talk about that. Looked like it was a great event. We also are still working on the pedestrian safety plan, and part of that is just a workload question, and Mr. Love is working on that, but it's lower on the list as in terms of street improvement project and potholes and all kinds of other fun things he's doing, but we are working on that. We will do follow-up reports on the on-street parking ordinance and the excess calls for service ordinance in July. That way we'll have 6 months under our belt and we can give you a report on how those are working. Pet licenses are scheduled for June 24th. I have 2 groups to meet with, the Planning Commission and the Design Review Board. I was scheduled to go talk to them last week, and they had they just barely made their quorum. They only had 4 members. So I'll be going in a couple weeks to their next meeting anyway to talk to them. And then I'll be giving you some feedback that I've gotten from the boards on our interview process for boards and commissions. Rental licensing, we have finished our engagement process, and so we will be starting to bring the schedule back for you and get that rolling again. In addition to that, we have the upcoming community events list, and I'll just really talk about the ones between now and our next council meeting. Tomorrow night is the North End Open House at the library, Maplewood Library. We did get notice today, and I'm not sure the council were noticed on this, but the 3M Settlement Group is meeting tomorrow night as well from 7 to 9 p.m. at Park High School in Cottage Grove. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, that has to do with well contamination. The City of Maplewood actually has 5 properties that have wells that are affected, so we're not a big player in this lawsuit, but if you are interested in going, Sean asked me to just let you know that that's happening tomorrow night. I don't know if you got emails on that or not, but if you want more information, I have it for you. On June 1st, we have the family picnic at Weaver Elementary, and that's from 1 to 3 p.m. On the 4th of June, we have a ribbon cutting at the Elk Ridge Alzheimer's Center, so that'll be interesting. I don't know if, Mayor, you got plugged into that or not, but that is on the calendar. June 7th, we have Music in the Barn. That's always fun. June 7th, we have summer nature walks at the Nature Center. And June 11th, we'll be doing another workshop with our partnership with the Chamber on a business education series called Getting Traction for Your Business. And that'll be at 7:30 a.m. at the MCCY. And with that, Mayor, I'd be happy to take any questions or concerns or things that you'd like staff to look into for you.
Thank you. Just a couple of things for council members. I think that, summertime in our city is really a lot of fun. There's a lot of events going on. And so I would encourage, I know we have 2 new council members, get out to as many of these events as you can. It really is a lot of fun. And a favorite is the White Bear Avenue Parade. Council members get to ride on the fire truck. And so it really is very cool. So please come on out for that. It really is fun.
You have no idea how lucky you are to be able to ride on a fire truck. That's
Yeah,
all I have to
it
say,
really is
because there
fun.
were years when it was a,
Yeah, and now we get to do it, so it's really fun. One other thing that I'd like to at least mention is, I'll talk about the tree program just a very brief little bit, but as a council member, it's always very helpful to me when we do something new or different to circle back and do a little evaluation on how did it go? Do we want to do this again? What do we want to change? If anything, I know that I really appreciated the video that was shot by our communications department because, folks, the trees that we got, they were all unloaded from a Bachman's truck. I know. And that was really very nice. So I think it would be nice if we could know how many trees were sold. Was it a success? Is it something that we want to do in the future? Is there anything that we would want to change? Just so that we can circle back and see, because we tried it once, and that was really my goal, was to try to open this up so that we can do something about the canopy in our community, because we are going to be losing those trees. I keep telling people the emerald ash borer is going to just devastate us, and then whatever that fungus is on the pine trees. So if we could have some staff report, just circle back and let us know, how did that work out? Do we want to consider that for next year?
Is that okay to put a report on the FYI, or do you want to?
That would be great.
Okay, yeah, we can do
Just so that
that.
we know what that looks like.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want Joe to give you preliminary
Oh, do you have the
information?
information now?
Yeah, it was in the FYI a couple weeks ago. So I think it was, right?
Was it, I don't
Yeah,
remember.
I think it was.
Yeah, so what we had is we initially put out an order for 150 trees
Oh,
or
that-
so.
yeah, but not
Oh,
since
that,
it's-
I did see that.
yeah.
We sold
And we
125.
sold
right
about
before.
127 of them. They were delivered the day before. The pickups went pretty well. I don't know how many people didn't claim them, but otherwise I think it's good as far as, unfortunately, the person who kind of organized it all and was the leader of it, she retired just before it happened.
Right.
So, but overall, it was, from a marketing standpoint, it was well received. It showed that people really look at living, because we could tell by the traffic. We had about 150 people who went directly from living to the website because they were first-time entries. So we know the living was a good piece of advertising for that, as well as some partners who helped us get out the word through social media.
Then maybe we don't need to revisit that, but does staff have anything to say about how did it work with using the tree trust to do this?
Yeah, Mayor and Council, so having spoke with a number of staff, going with tree trust ended up being a great thing. We didn't have any issues with the logistics. Our staff helped out with delivery day. I heard from everybody that it went really well. So if we were to move forward with another year of this, I would highly recommend kind of following the same layout as we did.
Okay, that's nice to know. Okay, great.
Do you have a question?
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to tell a quick story that I was planting my trees in my backyard, and later that night, a tree in my neighbor's yard fell over. And so what you're doing works.
That's a little spooky.
It's a little weird, but yeah. No, I think it's great. I think, although I do think we need to continue to challenge ourselves on these things to decide what good looks like before we do things. Because, one of my favorite things to do at work is to set my goals after I've done stuff. Because it's amazing how much I make my goals when I do that. If we look at, was 150 our goal? Was it, and is 125 good? I mean, it's great to say it's good now, but I think if we can set those ahead of time. And then I would also say, I think in the future, if it's maybe looking at upping the limit, because right now, we did 2 this year. I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to up that a bit for folks who may have more tree issues that they need replaced. I know we've got some folks who have, more than 1 or 2 trees that are ailing. So, there has to be some level of reasonableness to it, but I think maybe considering more than 2 next year.
I do recall that the number came from the Tree Trust as a recommendation on how to start a program.
Sure.
And so we had.
I think it was great for the
Yeah.
first year.
All the communication do
I just have a little bit of background on this. I kind of got stuck with this because of the marketing standpoint, and then the person who was doing it retired. So I did have a connection with the Tree Trust person. She said, comparatively, it's a good number. Yeah, would we want it to get to 150? Obviously. Just for context, our delivery was late about 20 minutes late, because they were just delivering 800 trees to Minneapolis. So you figure Minneapolis's population is about 500,000, we're 450,000, and they had 800 trees. We're 45,000, we had 127. I'm not great at math, but if you do the proportionality
I think that
scale,
those are pretty good numbers.
it puts
Yeah.
it puts you in the ballpark. I can connect with, and that's a great point. I could connect and kind of get the ball rolling for the next person who does it. Save Steve some legwork because he's got bridges to build. I could connect with the contact at Tree Trust.
Are you volunteering yourself?
Yeah, I can. I could connect with the plus she's from Connecticut, so we could talk. She liked my accent. So
Your accent is really sounding tonight.
yeah, I got a cold.
Okay.
I could connect with her, see if it makes sense, see how many people who ordered 2, and would it make sense to up the limits, and with some advice for next year. And I can
Okay.
write a report for the
I
next
think that would be
person
great.
who takes over the job.
Yeah.
It's a good idea to
That
kind
sounds
of
good.
revisit that. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, we are up to council presentations, and Councilmember Juniman, you have
Thank you, Mayor.
4 items.
The first one is from the League of Women Voters Annual Meeting, which was held at our new Wakefield Community Building on the 7th of May. And the reason I bring it to you is because I've had very positive feedback. They thought it was a lovely building, a wonderful facility, and they're already booking for next spring. And they're telling everybody they know, and this is the Roseville Area League.
Very nice.
I guess they like our park building better, what can I say? I don't know if this is valid to do this or not, or if it makes sense, but I thought maybe we could ask Mr. Love if there is anything we need to know about the County Road B XL project update.
Public Works Director Love, would you give us an update on road construction, our favorite thing here?
Sure, Mayor and Council, there's a lot of it. So,
Thank you.
For that comprehensive report. Yeah.
yeah, so as you know, we're in the first year of a 2-year project where XL is replacing a gas main, basically from Rice Street to Century Avenue and then down Century Avenue. There are going to be, right now, they're starting their work to do a third of the crossing at White Bear. They're going to do this in 3 phases, and it'll take about 3 to 4 weeks to get all the way across White Bear. There's another crew that's working on County Road B to our east. They're making progress, as well as there are lane shifts and stuff that are happening on Century Avenue as well. So the difficult thing with this project, we're certainly, they have a website that you can go to and get traffic information on. It is certainly a rolling project, so, it's very linear, so as they work, different parts are going to require, different areas to be shut down for a period of time. So their website is pretty good and has some information on there as well.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Juniman?
Thank you. Then I have some stats from the city cleanup. We'll be getting a full report next council meeting, but I just got a few stats today from Sean. We had 432 vehicles, which is good. It's an average. We've had years where we're only around 300, and we have had years where they're over 500. So we hit right in the middle. We collected 149 pounds of food and $30 for second harvest food shelf. There was 6,196 pounds of shredding done, free to residents. And the bike guy was ecstatic one more time. He said, our sale's one of the best ones. I mean, our cleanup is one of the best ones. 64 bikes, and in one way or another, they will all be on the road, either intact or as parts in other bikes. And they'll be going to kids in Minneapolis and a shipment going to West Africa.
Nice.
So we'll get the full report next time, but I thought those were kind of interesting stats. So we did well.
Thank you. And Tuesdays on the trail.
Yeah, just as a reminder for the people who live along the Bruce Vento Trail and are concerned about the whole bus rapid transit issue, to remind you that there are Tuesdays on the trail in June, and there will be people from the Rush Line BRT staff so you can learn the truth of the matter and also provide your input. And I encourage the neighbors, because we heard a lot from you at the beginning about this is going up the trail in my backyard, so here's your chance to meet with them and give your input nose to nose. They start next Tuesday, June 4th, and they all run from 4 to 6 p.m. June 4th is at the intersection of the Bruce Vento Trail and Atlantic Street. June 11th, the intersection of the Bruce Vento Trail and Larpenteur Avenue. June 18, the intersection of Bruce Vento Trail and Frost Avenue. And the 25th, the intersection of the Bruce Vento Trail and Jarvis Avenue. And they're all from 4 to 6 p.m. on Tuesdays, weather permitting. And I think that means if there isn't a violent thunderstorm or a tornado ripping up the trail, they'll be there.
Thank you for that. Mr. Sharon, is there a way that we can put that information on our website, a link? Because I know, it's hard to, if someone missed hearing one of those locations, can we get that on our website? Some kind of a link? Thank you very much. Councilmember Neblett.
Thank you, Mayor. On May 22nd, both Councilmember Jim and myself represented the city of Maplewood at the ISD 622 Stars Banquet, which is happens every year, and it is to basically honor the top 10% students at both Tartan High and at North High School. It was
A blast.
What?
It was a blast.
It was a blast. It was really nice. The one thing that I really want to say is how appreciative the foundation is, because this is the 622 Educational Foundation, and the entire event is put on by donations. And they were just so appreciative of the city of Maplewood's continued support. And if we can continue to support them, I would say, yay, let's do it.
And it was impressive that there were 2 students, one from each high school who spoke, and then a teacher from each school, and the student speeches were incredible. They were just phenomenal. It was very, very impressive. We're volunteering for next year.
Yep, we'll be there.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think I've already talked about the tree sale. I personally bought a birch tree and something called a serviceberry. Oh, they're cool. And both of them were really good quality. I was very impressed. Got them planted. I know, Councilmember Smith, what did you purchase?
I had the fruit trees and I think a plane tree.
And a what?
Plane tree, which is I think a magnolia, isn't it? It's got funky bark.
Funky.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really
I was
pretty.
very pleased with the quality of the trees.
That's a horticultural term, isn't it?
Funky bark, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Fungus barcus.
Okay, well, thank you very much. So enough about the tree sale. The Rush Line, I went on a tour of the Rush Line today with a number of other elected officials, Commissioner Reinhardt, met Chair, our former mayor, Nora Slawick was there, Joe Emerson, the mayor of White Bear was there, and I brought gifts for all of the council members because it's going to be the purple line eventually. So here are some pens for the Rush Line.
Thank you, sir.
And the rest can be passed around to staff. I thought that was really kind of nice. Wanted to make sure I brought treats for people, but I have to say that the Rush Line tour was really inspiring to see how Bus Rapid Transit is going to connect our community with downtown St. Paul and also out to White Bear, going kind of both ways. but it is going to be a really important transportation line for people to use to get to jobs, to get to shopping, to bring people into our community, to get them to their jobs. And I think it's really an exciting thing for our community. Now, the one thing that I really focus on about the Rush Line is that what we're trying to do, and this is a difficult challenge, is that we are trying to plan ahead for the transportation needs of our community 15 and 20 years down the line, because we simply cannot build enough roads. It's anticipated that there's going to be 700,000 more people living in the metro area between now and 15 years from now. And we just simply cannot build enough roads. And I know this morning for my job, I had to get across town to the west side. It was only about 30 miles, and it took me an hour and a half. And so we have to come up with better ways to do things. And I think the Rush Line is certainly going to be a benefit to our community. And I would encourage everyone to get out there. Councilmember Juniman pointed out the Tuesdays on the Trail to talk about the Rush Line. Be part of the solution. Please provide your input on the Rush Line, because this is going to be really important for our community and for the future. So additionally, another thing that is coming up is the North End. There is going to be an open house over at the Ramsey County Library on Wednesday, May 29th from 5:30 to 7:30. You can learn more about the vision plan and provide more input or share your ideas. If you aren't able to come to the meeting, we have SharePoint on or Social Pinpoint, on our website, a link so that you can contribute to the vision, the revision for the Maplewood Mall. But if you're able to attend in person, it's great. I'm sure they're going to have cookies and something else, and you'll be able to see the designs and the ideas from our community. And so I'd encourage all council members who are available, if you can, come over to that on Wednesday, tomorrow night, from 5:30 to 7:30. It's an open house, so please stop in as you can and see what the plans are, because I think the North End Group has done a fabulous job. We've got some really unique ideas in terms of businesses and housing and more green space, which is really a part that I like about what that North End study is looking like. So please come out for that. So I think that's it for council presentations. Anyone else have anything?
No, Mayor.
Okay, then we move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion concerning the consent agenda, or does anyone want to highlight anything? Councilmember Juniman.
I think we should pull item 4 to treat it separately,
Okay.
and highlight number 6 just for people's knowledge base.
Okay, then let's start off with number 4. That's the off-sale intoxicating liquor license for Hillside Liquor. Who's going to take that one? Pardon? Andrea? City Clerk Sint.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So tonight we have an off-sale intoxicating liquor license submitted by Amith, and I'm sorry I cannot pronounce his last name. He is currently the owner of the Hillside Market, which used to be Maddie's Market. So he is the owner of Hillside Market. He is now then going to take over Maddie's Liquor, and it will then be called Hillside Liquor. And we did a background investigation, and there was nothing found that would prevent the issuance. And he has met with the chief to go over some just best practices for selling liquor to underage. He is here in the audience if you have any questions for him.
Councilmember Juniman, would you like to join us up at the microphone? When we consider a new liquor license in our community, Councilmember Juniman kind of has a standard practice of, she has some questions for you and maybe some comments for you.
Okay, sure.
Thank you, Mayor. One of the reasons I like to pull this and have it separate is I think we want you to know how important it is to us that when you're running this establishment, you are very careful about to whom you sell.
Right.
And so, do you have any experience with selling liquor?
I don't, but I do. I did shadow around. Like, I own a gas station for a while now. It's a year and a half. So I did spend some time in liquor store, so I'm aware of that.
How many, do you have any idea how many people will be selling liquor under this license?
Just me and a couple employees. I have 2 employees
Okay.
and myself. So
I would more than encourage you to make sure you are properly trained. That would be all 3 of you.
yes,
Because if any mistakes are made,
yes,
we're going to look at you and say, how did that happen, not the other 2.
sure.
And I like to be quite frank with everybody who has a liquor license in Maplewood. Do not sell to underage people,
Sure, I don't
because I'm not a nice person when you have to come back here if you do.
understand.
And for
that.
some strange reason, people will reelected me again, so I'll be here for 3.5 more years to stick it to you if you're bad.
Got it. I'll make sure I won't do that.
It's, it is sort of, we sort of smile, but it is a big deal.
Right.
And I like it that our community kind of has a reputation, if you will, that this is not someplace you try and come and buy liquor if you're underage, and we want to keep it that way.
Sure.
So you're telling me you're going to do your best
Yes, ma'am.
and make sure you're well-trained. And that man right over there, Scott Nadeau,
Yes, I
you're
did
going to
met
keep
with
in
this guy.
close contact with him,
Sure.
and if he tells you to do something differently, I suggest you do.
Sure, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, and moving on to number 6, you wanted to highlight that. That looks like that is Public Works Director Love.
Right.
The resolution for no parking along Larpenteur Avenue.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so this is a Ramsey County pavement rehabilitation project. What they're doing as part of this project is also taking a look at, is there an opportunity here to create pedestrian and bicycle lanes in this area? So it should be noted that our 2040 comp plan designates this section as a priority project area for pedestrian and bicycle movement. Looking at this project, starting at the west end and moving east, you have from Hazel Street, which is a couple east of streets east of Van Dyke, to just about BB Road, is wide enough where they're going to propose to have 2 auto lanes, 2 parking lanes, and 2 bike lanes. So that width of the road there is sufficient to meet state aid standards for that. Why we have this item on tonight, the next section from BB to McKnight is wide enough to have 2 auto lanes and 2 bike lanes. Currently, there are some shoulders there. They're about 5 feet wide, so this doesn't meet state aid standards for parking on the road. So that's the area that we're really talking about. And then just wrap things up, going east from McKnight to Century, half that stretch has a off-road trail, and that's anticipated to be the other half built out at a future date.
But not part of this project?
Not as part of this project, yep.
And the main reason I wanted it brought up was so that people are aware that between BB and McKnight, you will no longer be able to park on Larpenteur Avenue. So that's the only reason I wanted to highlight.
Okay. Thank you. Then with that,
With that, I'll move the consent agenda items G1 through 6.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. Consent agenda items 1 through 6. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. We have no public hearings tonight. We have unfinished business. Mr. Love, this first one, the resolution adopting the revised assessment roll for Ferndale Ivy Area Street improvements. This is yours.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so again, this is the Ferndale Ivy Area Streets Improvement City Project 1801. So at our last council meeting, the council had held an assessment hearing in which we received 8 objections or deferrals. Overall, there were 3 objections to the assessment requesting either cancellation or revision. And we received a number of deferrals there as well. Staff has reviewed this. Our recommendation is to deny the objections for cancellation or revisions, as the assessments were done per our policy and also followed the guidance of our independent assessment appraisal. We do recommend granting the different deferrals pending appropriate paperwork being submitted by the residents. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Are there any questions for Mr. Love? Councilmember Juniman.
Thank you. And what's the deadline for that paperwork?
Mayor and council, following the council meeting here, we'll be sending that paperwork off. And I believe we have to have that in prior to certification to the county.
Mr. Beatty, do you want to comment on that?
Well, Madam Mayor, Council, I think the city can set its own deadline. I think what Mr. Love was saying is you need to have the certifications into the county by November, so that would be an outside date. Otherwise, it's going to be certified to taxes.
Okay.
I just think it's helpful for people to put it on their calendars to note that they better get it done or there'll be no deferment.
Thank you. Any other questions? With that, is there a motion?
I move approval of the resolution adopting the revised assessment roll for the Ferndale Ivy Street Improvement City Project 18-01.
Second.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Knutson, the motion to approve the attached resolution adopting revised assessment roll for Ferndale Ivy Area Street Improvements, City Project 18-01. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Love, this next one is yours as well.
Yes, Mayor and Council, so this one is the resolution adopting revised assessment roll for the Malin Crestview Forest Area Pavement Rehabilitation Project, City Project 1827. So again, at our last council meeting on May 13th, you conducted an assessment hearing. There were 6 total objections or deferral requests. Overall, there were 5 objections. Staff does again recommend not awarding the objections because the assessments were done per our policy and also followed the guidance of our independent appraisal report. We do recommend awarding the deferrals again, pending the appropriate paperwork being submitted by the residents. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Madam Mayor,
Council members, Juniman.
for the same thing, we said for the people on the prior project, you really have till the 1st of November, but if you're smart, you'll get your paperwork in if you really want your deferral. With that, I move the resolution adopting the revised assessment roll for the Malin Crestview Forest Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 18-27.
Moved by Juniman, seconded by Smith. Motion to approve the attached resolution for adopting revised assessment roll for the Malin Crestview Forest Area Pavement Rehabilitation City Project 18-27. Is there further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. We have one new business item,
Oh, it's the highlight of the evening.
and I assume, Ms. Paulseth, do you want to tee this up for us, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Tonight, you will be considering adopting a resolution which will allow the city to issue and sell general obligation bonds. The bonds will pay for the street improvement projects that are planned this summer. 2 of the projects you just acted on, the Ferndale Ivy area and the Malin Crestview Forest area. The project area also includes the Gladstone Phase 3 improvements. The amount of the general obligation bonds is approximately $4.7 million. These amounts have been evaluated as part of our overall debt capacity evaluation and also have been included in our CIP plan and our 10-year financial management plan. Staff is recommending the adoption of the resolution to call for the issuance of the bonds. The bonds will actually be sold and the bids awarded at the second council meeting in June 24th, I believe it is. So we have with us tonight Chris Mickelson from Ellers. They have done a report including some projections and potential schedules for what this bond sale will look like and how it will be structured. Bruce Kimmel from Ellers was planning on being here, but he was unable to attend tonight. But I can assure you that you are in very good hands with either one of these gentlemen. So Mr. Mickelson is available to answer any questions that you may have or to report on the report that they have included with the packet.
Thank you. Mr. Nicholson?
All right, thank you, Mayor, council members, and thank you, Ellie, for that introduction as well. Again, my name is Chris Mickelson with Ellers and Associates, and along with Jason Arsfald, who you heard from earlier this evening, and Bruce Kimmel, we make up your municipal advisory team at Ellers. Bruce sends his regrets that he's unable to attend this evening, but I'm happy to be here in his place. As Ellie said, this is a proposed $4,700,000 general obligation improvement bond issue, what we have labeled here the Series 2019A bond issue. Included in your council packet is our pre-sale report, and you've already received a pretty lengthy discussion on tax increment finance, so I'll maybe just hit the highlights of this. If you thought TIF was exciting, just geo improvement bonds, just wait. We're going to really get it going here. So anyway, I'll just touch some of the highlights of this report, and by all means, any questions come up, please ask. I'm happy to address those as we go. So the purposes, as Ellie mentioned, 3 projects here: Ferndale Ivy area street improvements, Malin Crestview Forest area street improvements, and the Gladstone Phase 3 Frost Avenue utility improvements. The important points to mention here: the first 2 projects there would use statutory bonding authority chapter 429 because special assessments are pledged over 20% for each of those 2 projects. The third project, Gladstone Phase 3 Frost Avenue utility improvements, statutory authority there is Chapter 444, and that is because debt service would be paid from utility revenues. Under the authority, that just touches on both that 429 and 444 is being used, as well as Chapter 475. That is the general bonding authority that gives cities, that is the primary authority giving you the ability to issue these bonds. Term call feature. So bonds are being issued for a term of approximately 15.5 years. Principal would begin on February 1st, 2020. That would conclude in 2035, and interest would be payable every 6 months beginning February 1st of 2020. The proposed call date for this financing would be February 1st, 2028, or any date thereafter. That would be for the February 1st, 2029 maturity, and the remaining, what would be 6 maturities there. Because the city is issuing no more than $10 million, or expects to issue no more than $10 million in tax-exempt debt during 2019, these bonds can be designated as bank qualified. I won't get into the specifics of bank qualification, but basically that broadens the market for the bonds. It allows for bidders to attach a slightly lower interest rate to these bonds. And so overall, that's a good thing for the city to be able to designate the bonds as bank qualified. The city currently enjoys a AA+ rating. That is really the second best rating that you could possibly obtain, just below a AAA, which is the best rating. And so that will, we expect, lead to both a strong number of bids as well as strong bidding results from bidders on this competitive bond sale. The city will request a new rating for this bond issue, and in so doing, S&P will look at the city as a whole as well as its outstanding debt, and this will assign a rating to this specific bond issue. Our basis for recommendation to pursue this type of sale, this is a GFOA best practice recommendation to use the competitive bidding approach whenever possible. This is consistent with the city's past debt issuance method, and this also preserves future prepayment flexibility by having a call date 8 or 9 years down the road here. Method of sale, as I mentioned a minute ago, this would be a competitive bond sale where underwriters all across the country would submit their best bid to purchase these bonds, and the award would be to the bidder who has bid the lowest interest rate to the city. I think I'll skip from there to page 4, unless anyone would like me to touch on premium pricing or any of the other points here. Page 4 lays out the proposed debt issuance schedule. So you can see the pre-sale review by the council is taking place this evening, and we would anticipate the conference call with the rating agency, in this case S&P, to take place that week of June 10th. That's when the official statement would be distributed also to the bond market. And as Ellie mentioned, we would come back with sale results at the council's June 24th meeting. We would have the bond sale that morning, and then would come that evening with the results from that sale. The closing date, or the date that the city would receive proceeds from this sale, would be estimated to be July 18th. So also attached with this report, what we call the Munix runs, we call it that just because it's the program that generates these runs. The first page of that is the sources and uses, and that lays out the 3 projects, the par amount of the bonds to finance each project on the sources side of the line, and then below that on the uses side of the line. That shows the underwriter's discount. That is compensation for the underwriter, for the bidder, for making the market in these bonds. They do not need to use all of that 1.2% allowance. The less they use, the more competitive their bid is. The more they take of that, the higher the interest rate for the total issuance is. And so whatever underwriter wants to win this purchase will bid that maybe less than others that are bidding. Cost of issuance, that includes our fee as well as S&P and the bond attorney, in this case Kennedy and Graven, for working through this bond issue. The deposit to the project construction fund in total, $4,575,000, goes to the various projects outlined on the first page. And rounding amount is just a function of municipal bonds being sold in $5,000 increments. So that will be anywhere from $0 up to $4,999, just relative to how that shakes out. The following pages, the next page lays out the total issue in summary, the total debt service schedule. Most important here would be the true interest cost. That's maybe midway through the bottom section here. So we're estimating approximately 2.82% interest rate or interest cost, TIC, in this pre-sale report, and that is with 25 basis points of cushion. And so without that cushion, closer to just under 2.6% interest rate. We put in a little cushion just because we don't know how the market may move between now and a month from now. But assuming rates remain flat between now and then, we could see interest rates maybe a little better than this 2.8, and if rates do tick up a little bit, then we should be right in that ballpark. The following page includes also the 105% over levy, as well as the assessments to be contributed to the project and the utility revenue portion. The final column on the right would just be the remaining portion for the levy component to contribute. And then the remaining pages just break down each individual project. So the first page being the Ferndale Ivy Streets project, next the Mailing Crestview project, the final one being the Gladstone utility improvements. And the last 2 pages are specifically for the assessments for each of the 2 assessment components. With that, I'm happy to address any questions that you all may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Council members, do you have any questions for Mr. Mickelson? Any questions for Ms. Paulsett? Then with that, do I have a motion to approve the resolution providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds?
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Juniman. Motion to approve the resolution providing for the issuance and sale of general obligation bonds, Series 2019A, in the proposed aggregate principal amount of $4,700,000. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Thank you very much for your
Thank you very much,
presentation.
everyone. Have a great night.
Mayor, this might be a record.
I'm going to note that it is 7:56 up there, and it just very well might be a record. And with that, we are concluded with business. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff.